Now that you've seen the official presentation for introducing the sound cylinders in a Montessori classroom, I wanted to go over some basic infant and toddler sound exercises that you can do in your classroom. The first is going to be responding to familiar voices. And this isn't exactly an activity that you sit down with an infant, but it is an activity that you kind of monitor to see when an infant might recognize familiar voices. And that would be a really good opportunity to talk to an infant from across the room to see if they respond. If a parent gets there and they say their child's name, or they just say hi, if the infant recognizes the sound of their parent's voice. So this is more of an ongoing exercise that you do with an infant as far as just identifying if they start recognizing familiar voices in their environment. The next activity is going to be hearing different levels of sound. And this is when singing becomes really important. You can do this with infants and toddlers. And you can read about it in your manual. But it's basically singing a song to an infant, a familiar song, in kind of just a normal tone that you would have. And then you sing the song again after a short pause, but this time you're going to change something about the way that you sing the song. You can sing it in a higher register or a lower register. You can sing it a little bit softer, a little bit louder. And so you're just going to change up the way that you sing the song and see if the infant recognizes that there's a difference in the way that you sing that. It's also just introducing different ways of making sound, and the infant or the toddler might sing along with you, or they might just sit and listen and enjoy. The next activity, making sounds with objects. And so you can use any objects that you want to in your environment. Pots and pans with utensils can be a really fun way to encourage an infant to beat along with the sound of, or the beat of the music that you're singing, or to just give them free rein to make noise on any kind of instrument that they want to. You can also introduce sound cylinders here, and not introducing it in the way that they're going to be matching, but just an exploration. So you can give them one or two or even a whole box of sound cylinders. I wouldn't give them 2 boxes to match, but just one set where they can take a sound cylinder and just learn to shake it, explore it. They might even tap it on something. But infants and toddlers are really interested in banging objects together. You're going to see them bang things together, so it's good to give them specific activities that they can use to get that sensation, that need fulfilled. And so by giving them sound cylinders that they can shake, by giving them pots and pans and utensils that they are okay to hit on, or even simple instruments that you can introduce, a xylophone or a drum set, different things like that you can introduce in the classroom that give them an opportunity to fill that need that they have for banging things together and hearing and experiencing loud sounds, but in a productive way. So exploring sound cylinders would be the first step in actually introducing the sound cylinders. The next would be introducing objects or containers with objects inside. And I have an example here of just 3 cylinders that I have. They're actually like little puff jars that I've saved from the infant classroom. And one of them is going to have an object inside. And so you'll pick up the ones that don't have objects first, typically moving from the child's left to right. So I'll move from your left to right. What's inside? There was an object inside. Let's try again. And then you can mix them up for the infant or the toddler, and then have them find the container that has the object inside, and they do so by making noise with it. There it is. So you can play that game back and forth with them. You can allow them to explore it by themselves. And then again, moving back to the sound cylinders, you can introduce the concept of loud and soft. We can, of course, do this with our own voices, but the sound cylinders give it a really concrete way of showing that there could be a difference between something being louder and something being softer. And so in that case, I would pull out the most contrasting cylinders that we have, so the softest one and the loudest one. And you're going to shake one of them. That is very loud. Shake it near the infant's ear, the toddler's ear. Loud. Oh, that is soft. Soft. Loud. Soft. And at this age, I would not introduce this as a 3-period lesson. If you have an older 2-year-old, or even if you're working with a child in Children's House, you could definitely introduce loud and soft concepts through a 3-period lesson. And then lastly, of course, would be doing a full-blown lesson on the sound cylinders, and you could do it with just 2. So I would, if you introduce matching concept with this, I would just start with the loudest and the softest. And then you could add maybe a 3rd one in there, so you'd only have a full set of 6. And then another fun activity goes along with something we've done before called the quiet game. This is identifying the source of sounds. And it's a quiet exercise where you have the children sit in a group, or you could even do this one-on-one. You could do it inside or outside. But you have the child sit for a little period of time, usually 30 seconds is long enough. And when you've sat for that long, then after you ask what they've heard. So this is obviously an activity for verbal, but you could do it with younger kids and just let them know after a very short period of time different things that you hear in their environment. So maybe I hear another baby crying. Maybe I hear a car going by. Maybe I hear a dump truck outside taking the trash. Maybe I hear an ambulance, or the phone is ringing. So for very young ones, you would just point out different sounds that you hear in the environment. And for older ones, you can have them sit and then determine for themselves what you hear. And maybe it doesn't even have to be a formal presentation, but in the moment, if you hear a sound of something, what is that sound? Do you hear that? What is that? So asking the child what they think it is. So for verbal ones, you would ask. For nonverbal, you would tell. I hope you enjoy these different types of activities that you can do with infants and toddlers to work on their auditory sense.